that scare you? I don't want to be alone.
This past year was not the best. I was doing pretty darn well at the start of the pandemic. I had just come home from a solo trip. I was energized, inspired, and then I don't know what happened. Once in a while, I'd have a really bad day, and then those episodes got longer and more frequent. And with my analytical brain, I thought, okay, I just need to figure out the factor that causes this. And every time that I thought, okay, now I've solved the puzzle, here's how to make this stop happening, it just kept coming back. I tried a therapist, I tried an accountability buddy, I tried telling my parents. I don't know if I'm allowed to call it depression if I was never officially diagnosed. I think the internet says that you have to feel that way for more than 2 weeks to qualify as depression, and my experience was very on and off, so I don't know. But I do use the word in my journal or when I'm talking to friends about it because the word depression to me sounds like it describes a different state of being, and that's what it would feel like. Like everything might be going really well, and then so suddenly out of nowhere it felt like a switch would flip and I couldn't do anything. And the longer I was in that state, the harder it was to get out of it. I felt very alone, and the pandemic of course did not help that. And even when I would get out of it, I just knew that it would eventually come back again. From a viewer's perspective, I don't know how much of this you actually saw. I definitely tried to keep the content flowing and make inspiring motivational videos. So I guess you can be the judge of how successful I was at painting that picture. It's hard to be honest on the internet. I wasn't ever actively trying to hide how I was feeling, but I'm not gonna turn on the camera to vlog when I'm crying in bed or watching TV all day or binge eating. So usually I would just disappear from the internet for a little while and then come back when I was feeling good again before eventually disappearing again. I've never really had an identity crisis before, and I didn't really understand what people meant by figuring out your identity as a teenager, because honestly, I felt pretty sure of myself all those years. So I think this last year was the first time that I actually wondered who I truly was, because I could no longer identify myself based on my accomplishments. And I know that sounds bad, but I'm not saying that I define myself by my productivity, because that would be toxic. But I define myself by the stuff that I spent my time on, my dedication to photography, to my YouTube channel, to school, to being a good friend. I was a generally optimistic and cheerful person, like that was my brand. But at times during this past year, that person felt like a stranger to me. I couldn't bring myself to make videos, to take photos, to text my friends back, and those were things that used to be so fun to me. So who was I? I don't want to make it all sound too bad because when the slumps ended, I did feel pretty good. It was just the inconsistency that was so frustrating. I couldn't keep anything up. I took on projects I couldn't power through and created work that I was ultimately disappointed with. And even when I was feeling good, I was just afraid of when the next slump would roll around. All this past year, I've been telling myself and other people that I think it'll get better once I start college and move out and change my environment, and I do still believe that. Which brings me to the next phase of this little monologue. As much as I am excited to move on to the next chapter of my life and move very, very far away, I gotta show Wisconsin a little appreciation. Wisconsin saw me grow up from like age 5 to age 20. It was a fantastic place to grow up. I went to some really awesome public schools, met some really awesome people, had amazing opportunities, and so I really wanted to make my last month at home special and do things that made me feel more like myself, the self that I have been for about 15 years living in this city. Side side by doing a photo shoot with a friend, which was incredible, and I had totally forgotten how much I actually like taking photos when they're not senior portraits and there isn't that pressure of delivering the perfect yearbook photos so that the client gets their money's worth. It's just being creative for fun, and that's something really special. I reconnected with my organized side and tried to get my life together by making lots of lists. I reconnected with my love for content creation and film videos, recorded podcast episodes, and just got to connect with some viewers and members of my audience who are always really good at reminding me of why it is that I do this thing that I do. I definitely reconnected with my friends and put way more focus onto scheduling time to hang out with them. I reconnected with my family. My mom and I went to this really cute Saturday farmers market and we had some delicious tamales and beet juice, and my brother and I bond by pretending to fight, I guess. So that was fun. What stands out the most in my memory from this month, though, is my trip to New York City. So I reconnected with a part of me that loves to travel, and I went on my first ever trip with friends to another city. I was so excited for this trip. I made like these little gifts for my friends where I gave each of them a film camera and a candle that supposedly smells like New York City, just to get all of us in the mood for the trip. And oh my goodness, I traveled there by myself, and it was just the best feeling to be on my own, on a plane, in the airport, carrying my gigantic backpack that had gotten me through my Europe trip 2 years ago, and then of course seeing the magical city of New York. So on our first day there, we woke up late because all of us were just exhausted, and we met Sean, who was on my podcast. I'll link the episode with him, for a very late breakfast, and we immediately got a taste of how freaking expensive New York City is, because I paid over $20 for just a sandwich and a coffee. Then we went to Times Square to check out the Line Friends store, where they have the BT21 characters, and the Nintendo store, and the Hope statue, before lining up for the Stephen Colbert show. Really fun, and it's free. You just have to reserve your tickets online, so I highly recommend it. We got to see Hugh Jackman and Emily Blunt, and then we even saw Emily Blunt as she was leaving the studio, so that was definitely like a starstruck moment for me. For day 2, we went to a proper breakfast cafe for some smoothie bowls and crepes before going down to see the Van Gogh exhibition. So I honestly wasn't sure what this was going to be. I thought it was just a slightly interactive museum exhibit, but oh my goodness, it was magical. I love watching these videos. So it was just this animation of Van Gogh's paintings that is projected onto the walls and the floor, along with a beautiful soundtrack, and you basically just stay there, sit, stand, walk around as long as you want, and absorb its beauty. After that, we stopped by Battery Park, which is all the way in South Manhattan, and then the Oculus Center at the One World Trade Center, before making the journey to Flushing to meet up with some of my friends for Korean barbecue and karaoke. On day 3, we had pizza and pasta for breakfast because, gosh darn it, we are 20 years old and we can do whatever we want. And then we visited the Vessel before it suddenly started raining. So we took refuge inside the mall, and we occupied ourselves by gaping at how perfectly aesthetic the Muji store looks. I swear, I just want to equip my entire life with products from Muji, and I think that would be true happiness. After that, we ran through the rain to get to Citrovia, which is this art exhibition that we saw on TikTok. Thank you, TikTok. And took lots of Instagram photos there. And then we went to a sushi restaurant just in time to take advantage of the lunch special. That evening was probably my favorite evening of the trip. I don't know, the rain just like cleared the air and the sky was beautiful, and we were walking around neighborhoods that felt very New York to me. I'm not a native New Yorker, so I don't know what is true New York, but as a tourist, it just felt very New Yorky. We also visited the little island before going back to Soho to have dinner at Prince Tea House, where I ordered a sandwich, a slice of crepe cake, and a matcha milk tea, and felt a little bit sick by the end of the meal, but it was delicious. On day 4, we visited the New York Grand Bazaar, where I got myself a little bracelet, which later gave my wrist a rash, but it's a cute bracelet. And then we spent a long time looking at turtles at Central Park. It's just very relaxing. I can't really explain why. Finally, on day 5, we visited the Cooper Hewitt Design Museum, which I also highly recommend because it is free, and I love free entertainment things. And then on our way back, we randomly spotted Sarah Jessica Parker filming Sex and the City because I guess that kind of thing just happens in New York. And then we lined up at Black Tap for their legendary milkshakes, and I kid you not, I literally missed my flight because of this. I got home eventually, packed up all of my stuff, said some goodbyes, and left.
You guys come back and visit us, okay?
You know I will.
I'm not gonna lie, I did feel pretty off in the week or so leading up to leaving, and so I felt like I never even got to process how I felt. I didn't feel excited or scared, I just kind of felt numb, and then suddenly I was closing the door, getting on a plane, and stepping off in another continent. It's crazy how airplanes work like that. And now I'm beginning the next chapter of my life, starting college, trying to not fall out of touch with my friends back home, but also stepping into this new world, hoping that it will be happier and healthier. So here's to a good school year. Thank you for all of your support through the highs and the lows of this past year. I have this handy dandy playlist for you if you're interested in other videos about my journey with studying in Spain. And of course, follow me on Instagram, and while you're at it, why not also sign up for my newsletter? Okay, that's all the self-promotion that I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye!